A person on YouTube said that undecidability proves the existence of free will. I was unfamiliar with this term, so I asked Gemini AI to explain the concept and had a discussion with it on this topic, which I will partially go through in this video. Basically, in mathematics and computer science, undecidability refers to a specific type of problem that is impossible to solve with a yes or no answer using an algorithm. The most famous example of this is the halting problem proposed by Alan Turing in 1936. Imagine you have a computer program and you want to write a second program that can look at any code and tell you whether or not the program will eventually finish running or continue to run indefinitely. According to Turing, mathematically such a program cannot exist. There will always be certain programs whose outcomes are impossible to predict. To get the answer or the end result, you have to actually let the program run. In terms of free will, your brain's decision-making process might be undecidable as well. So a supercomputer couldn't look at the current state of your brain and perfectly predict your next word or action without actually running your life in real time. So the computation of our choice is irreducible. It must be lived to be known. All of that said, undecidability is not proof of free will. Just because a computer can't perfectly predict what you will do doesn't mean you aren't bound by the laws of physics. A random or unpredictable system isn't necessarily a free one either. My personal logic, which I have mentioned before, is that humans make a lot of choices, but every choice that happens is the result of preceding circumstances in the brain and the data that the brain gets about the environment through its senses. An interplay of various factors converge and drive us toward a specific outcome or decision. We are not making choices void of influences. Things like our biology, genetics, memories, beliefs, and our emotional state all play a role in influencing our decision-making process. It certainly feels like we are making choices, but perhaps we are just not able to see all of the strings that pull us in different directions. Yes, you can throw in quantum randomness as well, but then that means we are influenced by both deterministic forces and chaos rather than making free will choices. Gemini said that the counter-argument to this would be compatibilism. Compatibilists define the concept of free will as the ability to act according to your own internal motivations, such as your beliefs, memories, and desires, without external coercion, like someone holding a gun to your head. In this view, the strings that pull us in various directions, such as our DNA and past memories, are actually us. Regarding compatibilism, I have some issues with this view. What if someone is an alcoholic and they genuinely want to stop drinking, but they are unable to do so because their physical desire to drink alcohol is too strong, perhaps due to genetic influences? What if someone is an agoraphobic but wants to leave their home, however they get panic attacks when stepping outside? How do compatibilists deal with these examples? If, as compatibilists say, free will is just acting according to our internal desires, but what if you have two conflicting internal desires? Which one is really you? Gemini said that compatibilists solve this problem with the idea of hierarchical desires. Basically, there are first-order desires, which are basic impulses, like wanting to drink alcohol, and second-order desires, which are actually desires about desires, like wanting to not have the desire to drink alcohol. This view says that you are free when your first-order actions align with your second-order desires. So, for example, if someone is a willing alcoholic, they are free in the compatibilist sense, but if someone is an unwilling alcoholic, they are unfree. My counter-argument to compatibilism would be that even second-order desires can change in the right circumstances. For example, a person could have a religious experience, perhaps due to psychosis or ingesting psychedelic substances, which changes their second-order desires when they start to adopt morals and teachings from religious scriptures. Suddenly, a willing alcoholic might view drinking alcohol as a sin and become sober or become an unwilling alcoholic. But this person could also encounter other information or experiences later that might cause them to abandon the faith, as well as some or all of its morals and teachings. According to Gemini, compatibilists would argue that we should take responsibility for our mental machinery and if our responsiveness to reason is working, then we are still free. So for example, if someone is religious and they encounter factual evidence that disproves their religion, and this causes them to abandon or rethink their beliefs, resulting in a change of behavior, then they are still free, because their responsiveness to reason or mental machinery is working. But if they cannot change despite reasonable logical evidence, for example due to a fear of hell or something, then they are unfree. But this just feels like moving goalposts. Gemini suggests that compatibilists aren't trying to prove that we are the ultimate authors of our lives. They are trying to figure out how to keep moral responsibility alive in a world of atoms. Perhaps because they are terrified of a world where we can't hold people morally accountable for their actions. After a bit of discussion, Gemini introduced the view of hard incompatibilism to me, a term which I had not heard of before. Determinism says we aren't free and everything is predictable, and compatibilism tries to find a loophole by redefining freedom. But hard incompatibilism argues that free will is impossible regardless of how the universe works. Hard incompatibilism argues against free will in two ways. Firstly, if the universe is deterministic and everything is the result of prior causes such as genes, upbringing, and brain chemistry, you still didn't choose the start of the chain, so you aren't really responsible for where it goes. Secondly, if the universe is indeterministic, some people try to save free will by pointing to quantum randomness. But according to hard incompatibilism, that is even worse. If your decision to buy a house was caused by a truly random subatomic particle flipping a switch in your brain, then you didn't really choose it. An accidental action is not a willed action. Chaos is not agency. The conclusion would be that we are either puppets or glitches, or perhaps a bit of both. Personally, I find hard incompatibilism to line up pretty well with my own thoughts and beliefs regarding the universe and free will. Gemini also points out that this can be a liberating outlook. It's easier to have compassion on others if they are the product of their circumstances. There's also less need for self-loathing because you can't truly blame yourself for your failures. You can simply look at the code and see how to patch it for the next time. Remember to like and subscribe, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and see you again in the next video. Okay, thanks, bye.